the shot that shattered 700 years. The Galactic Council chamber had always been a place of silence, deep, reverent silence, the kind that carried the weight of 7 centuries of peace. Its circular hall, illuminated by soft blue rings of light, symbolized unity among the 23 species that survived the Great Devastation War. For 700 years, no weapon had been fired inside this chamber. No envoy had ever bled upon its pristine metallic floor. Until today, General Lyra Hale stood at the center platform, her white uniform pristine, decorated with gold-trimmed rank bars that marked her as one of humanity's highest officers. She was not just a general. She was the human general, the one trusted to speak for a species that rose from ashes to earn a place among the stars. Her hair fell neatly over one shoulder, her expression controlled, though tension hung in the air like a blade. Behind the curved council table, the alien delegates murmured with unease. Reports flickered across their datapads. Images of a destroyed human relief convoy near the Orion frontier, the wreckage unmistakably marked with the crest of the Galactic Empire. The Empire insisted it was a misunderstanding, a navigational error, a tragic accident. Humanity knew better. Accidents did not leave plasma scorch marks consistent with military destroyers. Lyra lifted her gaze, her voice calm and steady. Members of the Council, evidence recovered from the convoy's remains shows deliberate targeting. The Empire deployed 4 cruisers into a humanitarian zone. This is not an accident. This is a breach of treaty. A ripple of agitation spread around the table. Some species leaned forward, wide-eyed. Others chittered nervously. The Empire's delegation remained stone-still, their green skin reflecting the chamber's cold lights. Their leader, High Marshal Zorax, narrowed his slit pupils but said nothing. Lyra placed a glowing data crystal onto the hollow emitter. Images spun into the air, charred hull fragments, civilian medbays torn apart, rescue drones melted into slag. She did not flinch. These were civilians, medics, aid workers. There were children aboard. A few council members recoiled at the word children. Across the galaxy, even after 700 years of peace, harming civilians, especially younglings, was considered an unforgivable act. One of the Empire's officers finally rose. His jaw tightened, his voice low and venomous. "General Hale, you imply treachery. We reject these claims. Humanity fabricates evidence to justify military buildup. You think we do not see your expanding fleets? Your fortified borders?" The accusation stung some delegates, but Lyra stood composed. "Peace is maintained through preparedness, Marshal. Our fleets remain within our territory. Unlike yours." The chamber hummed in rising tension. A dozen species shifted nervously. Everyone felt it, the fragile line between diplomacy and war thinning by the second. Marshal Zorax leaned forward. "Your arrogance astounds us, human. Your species has grown too bold. And your empire," Lyra replied softly, "has grown too desperate." The words hit their mark. Murmurs rose into sharp whispers. The Empire's younger officers bristled in outrage, their tendrils curling, their eyes narrowing. Peace talks had derailed. Pride had taken its place. One of the junior Imperial commanders, young, impulsive, and visibly enraged, could no longer contain himself. He stepped forward, hand twitching toward his sidearm. The council guards noticed too late. Lyra saw the motion. Too fast, too reckless, and she inhaled sharply. A plasma shot tore through the silence. The bolt hit her high in the right shoulder, burning through cloth, skin, and bone, exiting in a burst of crackling energy. The impact spun her halfway before she collapsed to her knees, her hand instinctively clutching her chest where blood already pooled. Gasps erupted from every corner of the chamber. A few council members screamed. Others froze, unable to comprehend what had just occurred in the holiest diplomatic hall in the galaxy. The young Imperial commander's expression shifted instantly from rage to horror. His weapon fell from his trembling hand, clattering across the floor. Lyra's breaths came sharp and shallow. Pain pulsed through her in searing waves, but she forced her head up, meeting the stunned gazes of the council. Her dark hair clung to her face, damp with sweat. Droplets of blood splattered onto the glowing council seal beneath her. Marshal Zorax rose in fury, not at his officer, but the fact the shot had been fired where all could see. "Stand down," he barked. Too late. The galaxy had already witnessed the Empire's crime. The ancient treaty was clear. If any envoy is harmed within the council chamber, the treaty is dissolved immediately. 700 years of peace ended by a single impulsive shot. Council alarms blared. Guards surrounded the Imperial delegation. Others rushed toward Lyra, but she raised a trembling hand, stopping them. She looked not at her wound, not at the Empire, but at the Council itself. Her voice was faint, each word drenched in pain. Humanity trusted this peace. We upheld it when it cost us. We believed it could last forever. Her eyes drifted toward the Empire's officers, who stood rigid in shame and dread. But humanity, she coughed, blood dripping from her lips, will not kneel again. With that, she collapsed fully onto the cold metal floor, consciousness slipping away. And across the galaxy, trillions who heard the news felt the same chilling truth. The peace treaty had died. War had returned. And humanity, patient, peaceful, restrained for 7 centuries, was about to show the galaxy what happened when someone spilled Terran blood. Humanity's rage awakens. The news of General Lyra Hale's shooting spread faster than any fleet could travel. Before the council guards even finished securing the chamber, the event was already broadcast across every human colony, station, and outpost within the Orion Arm. The footage, grainy, frantic, undeniable, showed the moment the plasma bolt struck her, her body collapsing, her blood staining the council insignia. 700 years of peace shattered in a single frame. On Terra, billions gathered in silence as emergency broadcasts echoed through megacities. On Mars, miners stopped their drills mid-strike. On Europa's floating cities, even children sensed something had changed. Humanity did not weep. Humanity did not panic. Humanity burned, not with chaos, but with unity. In the fortified underground halls of New Geneva Command, the most secure military bunker in human space, the High Council assembled. Holographic displays showed every human fleet formation in real time, glowing red along the borders of the Galactic Empire. Generals, admirals, diplomats, intelligence chiefs, every leader of consequence filled the room. On the central platform stood Chancellor Dorian Hale, Lyra's older brother. He wore a civilian coat, but his presence radiated military precision. A holographic medic appeared beside him. General Hale's condition remains critical. She's alive, but only barely. Her chances are low. The Chancellor closed his eyes. A sharp inhale, a long exhale. Then he faced the gathered leaders. The Empire attacked a human envoy inside the council chamber. The treaty is dissolved by their own hand. Murmurs rippled through the room. Some pounded fists against the table. Some whispered prayers to whatever gods listened. But all held the same expression, cold purpose. Dorian raised a hand. For 7 centuries, we honored peace. We grew. We contributed. We trusted. And now, our general, the symbol of Terran diplomacy, lies wounded because the Empire could not restrain its hatred. His voice hardened. Activate the Terran war protocols. The chamber fell silent. The protocols were older than most of the planets in human space. Ancient laws, written in the ashes of the last Great War. All of them had been dormant for entire generations. Now they awakened. Sirens sounded softly through the bunker as AI command systems activated. Holograms shifted to display fleet awakenings, troop deployments, and strategic readiness levels. Admiral Kalen, commander of the Terran Outer Fleet, stepped forward. Orders. Dorian met her gaze. Prepare the fleets. Mobilize every division. This will not be a war of conquest, but we will not tolerate another drop of Terran blood spilled. Understood, she replied. The human military began moving in synchronized precision, like a giant machine stretching after centuries of stillness. Across human-controlled space, responses erupted. On Mars, the Red Legion, elite shock troopers, assembled in perfect formation, crimson armor gleaming beneath the planet's rusty sky. On Titan, orbital shipyards activated their hidden reserves. Dreadnoughts that had slept in dry dock for centuries hummed back to life, engines thundering through the void. On Luna, long-range defense cannons, massive rods of hyper-accelerated tungsten, aligned toward the Empire's border. And from the deep shadows of the Kuiper Belt, the legendary Black Lance Division, the most feared special forces humanity possessed, received deployment orders marked Omega Priority. Humanity had spent centuries building peace. They had also prepared, quietly, meticulously, for the day peace might die. But the true spark, the moment that forged unity, came not from orders or protocols, but from Lyra herself. Her funeral broadcast ignited every Terran soul. Though still alive, her condition was too unstable to move her. The ceremony was symbolic, held at the Hall of Fallen Peacemakers on Terra. A white casket with her name engraved rested beneath a beam of light. Billions tuned in across the stars. The Chancellor stood alone on the podium. She fought for peace, he said, voice steady. She believed in it more than any of us. She went to the council not as a warrior, but as a diplomat. His jaw tightened. The Empire mistook her compassion for weakness. A low hum rippled through the crowd, both present and watching through screens. They attacked a peacemaker, he continued. They attacked all of us. He lifted his head and looked into the cameras. And when she fell, her final words were simple. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Humanity will not kneel again. The moment he spoke them, something ancient stirred in Terran hearts. Those watching felt their blood thrum with the weight of 700 years of restraint breaking open. Young, old, soldiers, scientists, artists, wanderers among the outer colonies. A single unified response rose from billions. Never again. The Empire, realizing the enormity of its mistake, sent a hastily prepared broadcast claiming the shooting was an isolated incident. Humanity did not bend. They sent their own message, short, sharp, impossible to misinterpret. The treaty is dead. The Empire killed it. Prepare for consequences. Hours later, the first human strike arrived. 3 Terran stealth fleets emerged from dark space near Ilker Prime, an Imperial border world. Instead of bombing cities, they targeted only military installations. In 17 precise minutes, every weapon emplacement, defense grid, and orbital cruiser was disabled. No civilians harmed. No cities touched. No genocide. It was not an act of brutality. It was a message. Humanity would not be prey. Humanity would not slaughter the innocent. Humanity would strike with terrifying precision. And they were just getting started. The galaxy watched with widening eyes. For the first time in 7 centuries, the other side of humanity had awakened. The Empire faces the other side of humanity. The Galactic Empire had always believed it understood humans. For 7 centuries, they saw a species that negotiated, compromised, deferred. A species that favored dialogue over dominance, treaties over threats, and diplomacy over destruction. They mistook restraint for weakness. Now, as the first human counterstrikes echoed across the stars, the Empire realized a truth their ancestors had once known and wisely feared. Humans were peaceful only when they chose to be. When wronged, they became something else entirely. The Imperial High Command convened in the War Citadel on Xeranthos Prime, a sprawling fortress carved into the side of a meteor-scarred mountain. Holographic star maps flickered across the room, highlighting the devastation at Ilker Prime and the rapid, coordinated human deployments on multiple fronts. High Marshal Zorax paced across the war table, tendrils twitching with agitation. This is unacceptable. A border world neutralized in minutes? The Terrans should not possess this level of capability. Commander Valeth, one of the Empire's most experienced tacticians, shook his head. We underestimated their technological growth. While we relied on the treaty to prevent arms escalation, the humans prepared. And what exactly did they prepare? Zorax snapped. Valeth hesitated. Everything. On the Empire's outer front, the answer became brutally clear. At the Hellion Corridor, a cluster of dense cosmic storms that formed the narrowest pass into Imperial territory, the Empire deployed its greatest armada, 2,000 ships strong. Titan-class carriers, psionic dreadnoughts, battle acolytes whose minds could melt steel. They expected a direct human assault. Instead, the corridor itself turned against them. Human gravity well mines, devices thought impossible under Council restrictions, activated in synchronized pulses. Space warped violently, ripping Imperial formations apart before the humans even arrived. Moments later, human fleets flickered into real space. Terran ships moved with a unity that unsettled even the Empire's machines. Triangular formations rotating in perfect rhythm, each vessel navigating the gravity distortions with precision only an adaptive combat AI could achieve. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. The Empire's flagship, Veriker, recorded the encounter in cold horror. Drones swarming like metallic locusts, decoys replicating human signatures, fold-stream distortions slicing through hulls with invisible force. 40% of the Imperial Armada was gone before their weapons systems locked on. Human casualties, 2 cruisers lost to stray debris. The Empire called it impossible. The galaxy called it a warning. On the ground, the truth grew even more unsettling. On the moon, Fortress Virexis V, Imperial infantry, renowned for their discipline, dug into trenches beneath a violet sky. They expected swarms of humans charging recklessly. Instead, the humans arrived as shadows. The Black Lance Division slipped into their defenses unnoticed. Imperial sensors detected nothing, not even heat signatures. The first alert came when an entire command post was found incapacitated. Every soldier knocked unconscious, every weapon disabled, not a single life taken. The second alert came too late. Black Lance soldiers advanced in nearly silent lines, exosuits absorbing recoil, visors glowing with predatory calm. Every shot was surgical, every movement calculated. Their tactics were not just efficient, they were unervingly emotionless. A terrified Imperial lieutenant, cornered against the wreckage of a fallen walker, whispered the phrase that would spread across the front like wildfire. They fight like they're possessed. Not savage, not chaotic, not monstrous, just terrifyingly good at war. Back on Zoranthos Prime, High Marshal Zorax stared at casualty reports projected above the war table. Entire fleets lost, outposts taken, communication relays sliced out of hyperspace as if by a scalpel. This level of coordination, this predictability, he muttered. How are they reading our strategies so perfectly? Valeth swallowed. We believe the humans have adaptive learning battlefield AIs, systems that update in real time, altering strategy faster than our strategists can respond. But AIs are forbidden under the treaty. Zorax snapped. Valeth nodded grimly. The treaty is dead. They're no longer bound. A realization settled over the Imperial High Command, heavy as a collapsing star. Humanity had spent centuries learning peace. They had also spent centuries mastering war. Worse yet, the Empire's enemies were growing. Across the galaxy, neutral species watched the conflict unfold. 4 generations, they suffered under the Empire's taxation, intimidation, and political dominance. The humans, by contrast, had always been fair traders, honest diplomats, fierce protectors. When human marines freed a captured neutral colony on the planet Zelos, destroying the Imperial garrison without harming a single civilian, the galaxy took notice. One by one, minor species broadcast their allegiance. We stand with Terra. Humans protect their allies. The Empire has lost its right to rule. Rebellions erupted across Imperial space. Entire systems refused to answer Zoranthos' calls. Supply lines withered. Morale plummeted. What began as a single shot in the council chamber was rapidly transforming into a galaxy-wide revolt. Then came the revelation that shattered the Empire's last illusions. Imperial intelligence, desperate to understand the Terran response, uncovered encrypted messages between high-ranking officials. After weeks of decryption, the truth was revealed. The Emperor had ordered Lyra Hale's shooting. Not the young officer. Not an accident. Not a misfire. A calculated strike meant to provoke humanity into a conflict he believed the Empire could win easily. He believed wrong. The Empire was not facing a minor frontier species. They were facing a force that had endured, adapted, innovated, and prepared during every peaceful century. They were facing a species that had finally been forced to remember who they were when pushed. Humans, the Terrans, the species that once climbed out of their own ruins and reached for the stars with bloody hands and unbreakable will. Now that old side was awake again, and the Empire had nowhere left to hide. The woman general's revenge. The imperial capital, Zaranthos Prime, had never known fear. Its shimmering spires and fortified citadel once stood as symbols of unquestioned dominance, a world protected by the largest defense grid in the Empire. It had survived solar storms, asteroid sieges, and ancient rebellions. But it had never faced humanity enraged. The skies above the capital erupted as human dreadnoughts dropped out of dark space in a synchronized formation. Thousands of smaller Terran vessels followed, shadows flickering across the upper atmosphere. They moved with the disciplined precision of a single organism, encircling the planet like a metallic halo. Admiral Kalen stood on the command bridge of the human flagship, the Aurora Ascendant, her hands clasped behind her back. Her expression was carved from iron. Begin the assault. Human weapons did not roar loudly. They whispered with lethal purpose. Orbital defense towers lit with counterfire, but within seconds, Terran gravity torpedoes folded their foundations inward, crushing them like paper. Planetary shields flared a desperate blue before cracking, shattering, and falling in splintered fragments. The Empire's proud citadel trembled as kinetic rods plunged into strategic points with surgical accuracy. The message was clear. Humanity would not annihilate the capital, but they would take it. Inside the Imperial throne fortress, Emperor Varith stood rigid, his crown of obsidian trembling slightly in his hand. The once commanding chamber now felt suffocating, its towering pillars like the ribs of a dying beast. Reports streamed in. Third Fleet destroyed. Outer generators offline. The humans breached the Citadel perimeter. And the most devastating, rebellions have seized 8 core worlds. They fly Terran banners. Varith's eye ridges twitched. Impossible. Humanity can't command this many species. It seems, an advisor whispered, shaking, the galaxy prefers Terran justice to Imperial rule. The Emperor slammed his fist against the throne. This was supposed to be simple. A provocation, a controlled war to show our superiority. But the chamber felt colder as he said it. Every guard, every attendant, every soldier standing near him lowered their gaze. They all knew the truth now. He had ordered the shot that began this war. He had miscalculated. Humans were not prey. They were predators who preferred peace. And predators who prefer peace are the most terrifying of all. The Aurora Ascendant landed upon the outer terrace of the Citadel. Thunderous tremors shook the fortress as its landing claws crushed ancient marble. Human Black Lance operatives poured out, their armor matte black, their movements quiet, unified, unstoppable. Admiral Kalen advanced with them, her expression cold. "Capture the Emperor alive," she commanded, "and bring him to the council chamber." The words carried the weight of a verdict. Through the labyrinth of the Citadel, the Black Lance moved like death itself. Imperial soldiers fired, but Terran exosuits absorbed impacts or shifted positions instantly. No wasted shots. No hesitation. To the Empire's credit, they did not beg. They fought. They bled. They fell. Kalen found the Emperor near the throne room's exit, attempting to escape with a guard escort. He froze as the Admiral approached, her armor reflecting the flames outside the Citadel windows. "Your High Sovereignty," she greeted, voice calm. On behalf of humanity, you are under arrest. He raised his chin defiantly. You think taking me will win you this war? Kaelin shook her head. No, we already won. But justice must be seen. The Emperor lunged for a guard's plasma saber in desperation. He never reached it. A Black Lance soldier dropped him with a shock pulse, sending him collapsing to the marble floor. Kaelin stepped over him and whispered, "For General Lyra Hale." The galaxy watched as the Emperor of the Galactic Empire was dragged, alive, into the council chamber where General Lyra Hale had been shot. The same glowing floor, the same circular table, the same symbol beneath him. He trembled, not from fear of death, from what he saw, because in the center of the chamber, seated upright in a medical stabilization harness, was Lyra Hale. Alive, barely but alive. Her skin was pale, her breathing shallow, but her eyes, sharp, unbroken, gazed at the man who tried to kill her. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Millions watched through hollow feeds across the galaxy. Lyra spoke first, her voice weak but steady. "Emperor Vareth, you stand accused of violating the ancient peace. You order my assassination. You fractured the galaxy, and you brought war upon your people." The Emperor snarled. "You think you can judge me?" Lyra's eyes hardened. "No, the galaxy will judge you." Kaelin activated the playback of his encrypted confession, his own voice filling the chamber. "Provoke the Terrans. Their forces are weak. The galaxy will unite behind our retaliation." The chamber fell silent. Lyra lifted her hand. "This is not revenge. This is justice. For all species crushed under your rule." Delegates, human and alien alike, voted in unison. The verdict was unanimous. The Emperor was stripped of power, title, and legacy. He would spend the rest of his life in isolation on a barren world with no throne, no servants, no empire, only the weight of his own choices. Weeks later, after the flames of war dimmed and the new Galactic Accord was signed, Lyra stood before a memorial on Terra, her memorial. The one constructed when everyone believed she would die. Her brother, Chancellor Dorian Hale, joined her quietly. "The galaxy is different now," he said softly. "Because of you." Lyra stared at the memorial's inscription. She bled so peace could be rebuilt. She stood so humanity remembered its strength. She whispered, "This was never about war. It was about proving we deserve better." Children from multiple species played nearby, chasing drones under a unified sky. Lyra watched them and murmured the new Terran oath. "Never again will peace die in silence." And for the first time since the council shooting, she allowed herself to breathe.